2017 iPad 3 months later. That video is coming up right now. Let's go. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and I've had the 2017 iPad for about 3 months now, and in this video I want to share with you my experience with the tablet here. So let's just lay out a few of the key specifications to get those out of the way. This is not a review, but I just want to remind you, if you don't know what the specs are: 9.7-inch display, that's 1536 by 2048 pixels, 8 megapixel rear camera, capable up to 1080p video recording, 2 gigabytes of RAM, and an Apple A9 CPU with an 8827 milliamp hour battery life. And those specs overall in the past 3 months, even though they're not the most powerful iPad Pro specs, I couldn't even tell. I mean, what I'm doing on an iPad, these specs were just fine in my use case. So in the past 3 months, the only time that I noticed that I might have needed a little more power with the iPad is when I'm doing like 20 apps at once, going through things, heavy things. I did notice a little stutter here and there when I am hopping in between apps when there's a lot of apps open. But other than that, this thing has performed exceptionally well, even with its 2 gigs of RAM instead of like 3 or 4 with the iPad Pros. So let's take a quick second to talk about the body and the build. In the past 3 months, I picked this thing up every time, and I feel like, man, this is just really nice for the price. $329 gets you this iPad, and I've even seen them on sale at Best Buy for about $299, and they feel no different than something like a $700 iPhone 7 or even any of the other Apple product line that they do have. The MacBook feels exactly the same as this thing, so this is why I think this tablet has been a home run hit for Apple, is because it feels just as premium as the other products, but it does have, less price point for most people to be accessible to get into the iPad ecosystem. Now, in my initial reviews, I was talking about the screen and how it had a gap, and that it is noticeable very slightly, but only when you compare it next to like an iPad Pro. And over time, you tend to forget about that. So when you first get it, if you do know tech like that, you're going to be looking at it like, oh, okay, there's a gap on my display just a little bit. But you tend to forget about that, and then you just start enjoying your iPad, and it becomes a non-issue. So this whole gap thing that people were talking about with this iPad, and even including me, after 3 months, I have to tell you, it is really not a big deal here with this little gap. It just doesn't matter, really. It's not going to affect your usage. You're still going to be able to use and enjoy iOS on your iPad just fine. And I did download and install iOS 11 here for this iPad, which has been running phenomenal. And you guys, I think, are really in for a treat when you get iOS 11, the official for your 2017 iPad, if you did buy one. Okay, guys, so let's talk about my experience with the display. So the first thing I think everybody thinks about is, number one, we already talked about a little bit, is that gap with the display, and also the level of brightness this display gives you. In addition to that, True Tone. So is this display bright? Well, let me let you guys know right here. In the past 3 months, unless you're taking this right in direct sunlight, there does become quite a bit of glare out there if you're outdoors using this. If you're under decent condition lightings, like darker, dimmer lightings, this thing gets plenty bright, and it's going to get so bright that you're not going to be able to have it on full brightness at nighttime. So it's definitely a super bright display, and that's a great thing for most users. Now, in terms of the True Tone, so people might be asking, is the True Tone feature, does it really make a difference? And it kind of does, because it automatically adjusts to make the colors more, available to certain lighting conditions. Here on the iPad 2017, you do get this night shift mode, and night shift mode does come on the other iPads as well. And it's a little bit different, this technology, but I couldn't really tell the difference. So if I turn on night shift mode and I tweak it to kind of where I want it, it kind of replicates what True Tone already gives you, because basically what True Tone does is it goes ahead and makes the lighting of the display more warm, a little bit more cool depending on the environment. So that's kind of automatic, but you can kind of tweak it yourself here with night shift. Now, I know they're not exactly the same tech, but I mean, it works. It's kind of like a bootleg version of, True Tone, but it gets the job done here. There's no Apple Pencil support here on the 2017 iPad, which I definitely think is a little bit of a bummer, but at the same time, you don't want to cannibalize your iPad Pro line by putting a pencil support on a cheaper iPad, so everybody goes and buys a cheaper iPad and then just buys an Apple Pencil for still cheaper than an iPad Pro. So it makes business sense for Apple not to do that. So I'm not complaining about that. I would go ahead and just get an iPad Pro if I want an Apple Pencil here. But other than that, display, the gap does make it a little bit more, glare. So it gets a little bit more glare than, the laminated displays on the Pro line of series of tablets. But at the same time, it looks pretty fantastic for what you're paying for here. And in my 3 months using this, I could say that I definitely would not pick it because I do use an iPad Pro as well. I would definitely not pick this tablet up over an iPad Pro for reading and watching movies. But if you don't have an iPad Pro and you don't plan on buying one and you buy this iPad Pro, there's going to be no issues with the display. You're going to love it. So 3 months on, let's talk about the software here with the iPad 2017. So I definitely went ahead and installed the beta iOS 11, which has been fantastic. It brings the new file system. It brings the ability to put your applications side by side, however you would like them. And it's just really smooth. It works really well here on the iPad. And I mean, there's really no other tablet. I mean, Samsung's got some S Pen tablets out there in their Galaxy line of series of device tablets, but I don't really think there's any other tablet touching the iPad. It is the best tablet, hands down, in my experience. In 3 months, this software on this tablet, it's just bar none amazing. So I can't really, I know it sounds like I'm being Apple fanboy right here, but the fact of the matter is I'm just giving you my experience. And in my personal experience, the tablet experience here on the iPad is just amazing. It's what you expect from a tablet. I think that Amazon does some great stuff with their Kindle tablets. I think Samsung does some great stuff with their Android tablets, but with the application selection here on iPad, the incredible 10-hour battery life, we're going to talk more about the battery life later here on the iPad. This thing right here is just a great tablet experience. It just can't be beat in my experience so far. Now that could change. Some people say the Surface line is better. Well, if you want a full computer, but I'm talking about a tablet centric use. This is amazing, the iPad 2017. Well, since we are talking about software, how does the performance on this 2017 iPad? Well, I can tell you right now that the performance, just like I said with the software, has been pretty amazing. Even with 2 gigs of RAM, it kind of reminds you of the iPhone SE. So the SE brings, a little bit older specs, 2 gigs of RAM, A9. Apple kind of did the same strategy here with the iPad 2017 and bringing you a cheaper price point, an A9, 2 gigs of RAM. And this combination proved to work on the iPhone SE, and it's proven to work here on the 2017 iPad as well. They basically took that same strategy and enhanced the iPad here, over the iPad Air 2. Now, some people are going to say this is a downgrade because of the laminated display. Well, I would rather get rid of that laminated display and have much better internal specs over the iPad Air 2, because the A8 is not even close to the A9 in my experience here. So 3 months later, the performance has been rocking. It's very quick. Downloads apps incredibly fast. I still think that the iPad Pros are definitely smoking this one, like the new A10X CPU iPad Pros. Maybe not the 9.7 from last year, but definitely the newer iPad Pros are smoking this one in performance, but it's still plenty fast. And again, it comes down to that. If you don't put it side by side, you'd never notice. Talking about the battery life with the iPad 2017, we are looking at an 8827 milliamp hour battery. That's a 32.9 watt hour cell. And this thing is non-removable as of with all Apple products. So don't expect to be able to remove your battery life. And the battery life on this thing has just been absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's getting what it claims, the 10 hours. And in my experience, I've never got under 10 hours. As a matter of fact, if you are light on it, I've been able to get up to 12 hours, 30 minutes on my iPad in the last 3 months here. So definitely enjoying the battery life so far in using this tablet. It's been pretty fantastic here. One issue, and this is a huge issue, I can't give it all props, all credits. The iPad, it just takes forever to charge. So make sure, guys, that before you head out the house in the morning, if you're going out with your iPad, get that thing charged, because if you don't, you're going to be in trouble. It takes about 4 to 5 hours to charge an iPad from 0 to 100. It's even slower to charge an iPad than it is to charge a Mac. Now, you can get a larger size watt, charger for your iPad, which will help the charging times, but still, it's incredibly slow. And this is one area Apple definitely needs to improve if they want to keep up with other technologies on the market. So, are there any negatives with my experience with the 2017 iPad in the last 3 months? You might be saying, Nick, bro, you're just praising it. It's kind of like a review. You're just saying all the good things about it and not saying, what's wrong with the tablet. And there is a couple things I don't like about the iPad 2017 in my past 3 months, and they're little nitpicking things, but hey, you guys want to know, so I'm going to be over here giving them to you, telling you what I didn't like about it. So here we go. I don't like the fact that, Apple went ahead and decided to take off a flash. I think you should leave a flash on this iPad. It's not that big of a deal to just throw a flash in there, and it's very useful. I actually, an iPad's something that's of a companion device. You put your iPhone to the side and you're laying in the dark and you're watching movies and stuff like that. When you need to get up or something, you're going to turn your flashlight on your iPad Pro. It's just a little bit annoying. I got to go grab my phone to turn on the flashlight when it could be right, installed on the iPad. Like I say, it's nitpicking, but if you want to know some negatives, there is one one negative of the iPad. I talked about the slow charging. That's another negative of this iPad. And this doesn't shoot in 4K video. So if you were looking to do some 4K video, that's a negative as well here. So other than that, there's not many other negatives here that come with this iPad. It's pretty fantastic. Other than that, I have nothing else to say about it in that regard. I mean, I can't even knock the gap between the display. It's not a big deal, so I'm not even gonna call that a negative. So let's talk about the positives now. So what are my positives of this device? So there's so many to talk about, so I just wanna sum it up in one major positive thing that I've noticed. And I mean, it's got to be something that's not even, it's kind of not even a hardware thing. So we know this is a beautiful tablet. We talked about it this whole video about everything that comes with it. It's the value. You get so much for the price here. I mean, you could buy this tablet and it's basically going to give you a similar experience to the Pro. I mean, why buy an iPad Pro when you could buy this thing? Now, if you are somebody who likes to draw, I mean, bar none, there's no reason to buy something that doesn't have a pencil if you can go ahead and buy a tablet with a pencil. If you're an artist, this is not your tablet. But if you're just looking to do the basic things everybody does on a tablet, then the iPad Pro makes no sense for you, and that's why I think this has been a hit. Another major positive of this tablet has been, like I say, I really love the build quality. I mean, you would think Apple would do something like a plastic device, maybe to get the thing down, but they decided, no, we're gonna go with our, traditional classic aluminum, and we're gonna give people premium feeling materials at a cheaper price. And this really is where, this one shines. I mean, it feels like $1,000,000 in your hands, and that's great. I mean, for $329, you can't go wrong. Look at all this screen for $329. I mean, I remember when iPad started at $500 and you couldn't get nothing less than 16 gigs for that price point. So very, very good tablet here overall. And I'm very happy and ecstatic after 3 months. Battery life has held up well. It's not even decreasing. It's still getting a solid 10 hours, even after 3 months of heavy usage here. In my 3 months experience with the 2017 iPad, it's been overwhelmingly positive, and I'm just being honest with you guys. This is what I've experienced here. I cannot sit here and be negative. This is what I've experienced with the iPad, and I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty positive, if you decide to take the plunge on this iPad, maybe for a child, maybe for yourself, maybe as a gift to yourself, whatever it may be, you're going to be one happy camper as long as you don't need an Apple Pencil. Anyway, Nick here helping you to master your technology. If you found this video helpful, hit the thumbs up for me. Subscribe to the channel if you are new here and you enjoyed this content. I will catch you all in the next one. Be sure to be well and peace.